Welcome to The Difference. What is the difference that makes the difference? Isn't it true? It has to be a difference to make a difference. Otherwise, it's no difference. So what is the difference then? When we look to the alternatives, when we look to a procedure, what would be the necessary steps in order to guarantee a difference? Isn't that the edge for the future? To be the difference for customers, for our dear ones, or for ourselves? What is the difference? Let us explore and really explore what is the difference that makes the difference.
Good morning. Morning. To give you just one little background why I'm standing here, I go back 34 years in my life, and 34 years ago I made a decision what my profession should be. And 34 years ago I decided to become a golf professional. And when you turned pro 34 years ago, you had two ways to go. You either played well and you became a professional golf player. If you didn't play that well and became a professional golf player, you became an instructor. And I turned professional instructor. And I didn't want to be instructor, I wanted to be a golf player. And that was started the question in my mind 34 years ago. What is the difference that makes the difference? Because it has to be a difference. Otherwise, it's no difference. So the question boils back, what is the difference, for instance, in golf, from the best golf players in the world from those who are average? My journey started, I looked to the external. I looked to what I could see. Was it the difference in my physiology? Was it technique? Everything I could behold with my eyes from externally, from outside. However, after a while, I saw that was not the difference. The difference laid somewhere else, from the very, very best in the world, in world class and average. And I turned into, and I don't know about you, but I turned into the world of thinking, in the world of emotions, how people took decisions, and no one has seen it. It's a very, what would I say, fussy space to be when I talk about thoughts. Has anyone seen a thought? No one has seen a thought. Emotions, have you ever seen emotions? Can I have 4 kilos of love, please? No one has seen love. We talk about things as if it existed. And that is where I started to look for the difference that makes the difference. In order to make it more concrete, 15 years ago, I got a phone call from one of the best players in golf. It doesn't matter whether you play golf or not, it doesn't matter. But this guy, he had played for a couple of years, turned his technique and said, this is not enough. I'm the best player in Europe. I want to be the best in the world. Disappeared for a while, came back and became the best player in the world, and his name was Nick Faldo. What happened was that he disappeared after a couple of years. Again, 4 years, he was totally gone. And what happened, he called me up and said, Kjell, would you like to work with me? And long story short, I went over to the States and started to work with him. And he should play a tournament called US Open and of course, Augusta. The evening before the tournament, a guy called me up, and I never talked to him before. Also one of these best players in the world, and he said, Kjell, I have a problem. Do you have time to work with me? That was as short as it was on the phone. I never met him. And I said, thank you very much for the confidence. No, I don't have time. I'm sorry. I'm going to work with Mr. Faldo. But at that time, I should be quiet. Have you ever experienced, sometimes you talk, at the same time you're thinking, did I say that? Have you ever done that? You want to be quiet, but all of a sudden, blah, 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 blah. I heard myself. Because I should be quiet, but I wasn't. It's like, golf is so fascinating. Why I like golf is because sometimes you know what you want, you know exactly how to do it, but you don't do it. Have you ever experienced that? Or you know what you should do. Yeah, many times. So here I'm talking to this guy on the phone, and I said, thank you so much for the confidence. I don't have time, and there I should be quiet. But then I said, but what is it? And at the same time I said, what is it? What's the problem? I'm so curious, I have to know. And he goes, well, tomorrow morning, I'm going to play with a guy, his name is Tiger Woods, and I don't know if you know who that guy is, but at that time he was a very good golf player. Very well known for that. However, he says, it's going to be 40, 50,000 people walking with me for 5 hours. That's not the problem. I said, okay, so what's the problem? And this is what he said. He said, when I put my first foot on the green, I want to walk away. And I just want to explain for everyone in the room, if you don't play golf, that's not good. Okay? It's not a good emotion to have, or a good feeling, so to speak. That's his words. When I put my first foot on the green, I want to walk away. It is as if a person comes into a room and you say, wow, a phone call to me, and you walk away. It's a bad feeling created. Or you say, wow, a good feeling. Or if you have children and they say, you know what, tomorrow I have a mathematical exam, I'm really nervous. That is not logical. Mathematics and nervous doesn't go together. However, what we do as humans, we put them together, we stick them together. And here you have the difference that makes the difference why I choose Atlas Copco compared to a competitor. I'm going to glue an emotion. So what we need to look at is, how do you do it? This guy, if he calls you up and says, hello, I want help here. I'm going to play with Tiger Woods tomorrow. When I put my first foot on the green, I want to walk away. Help me. What had you said? What had you said on the phone? So what you can do is turn to your neighbor on your side, and you just talk for 1-2 minutes and come up with a good solution. How do you do it? And I want a procedure. And then you say, Shell, it's a guy on both sides. Well, you can take the guy you look, who's most beautiful. So you can just, oh, well, I take that one. No, I'm just teasing. You can take the guy who's most cool, or girl who's most cool. 2 minutes, how do you solve if you connect an emotion to something, for instance, a green phenomena, a person, or mathematics? How do you change an emotion? And I want it very specific so I can do it. Okay, 2 minutes, please. If we start to ask questions and we just start to use our fantasy, what happens if this becomes stronger, the emotion this guy have? To give you one statistics, he was the top 2 in the world in putting at that time. In other words, he's one of the best in the world to do exactly that. He, in the whole world, got this little notion or emotion that when he puts his first foot on the green, he wants to walk away. If that grows stronger, what happens in 2 weeks? What happens in 2 months? What will probably happen in 1 year? That this guy probably quits playing golf. And now we are looking externally. He has the best technique, he's good posture, physiologically, everything is there, but it's something that is lacking. And that is this emotion, or whatever we should call it. Does it make sense so far? Have you experienced it? My wife does it very often. I don't know if you know. In my experience, she gets this, she's going to decrease in weight. It's called diet, which would give a hint how fun it is. Diet. But however, when she goes on a diet, she very often says, well, I should go on a diet. And the first time she said it, my brother came in with a tray with buns and this. It's a chocolate we have in Sweden called After 8, the mint chocolate, with a green thing, and he puts it down with a cup of tea. The second before, my wife said, no, I'm going to go on a diet. When he puts that down, the first thing she does is she grabs a chocolate, and she starts to go, And in my world, that doesn't match. But I learned one thing, and that is to be very quiet. So I'm just sitting and beholding her and say, wow. And then she goes, after, I don't know, half minute, she goes, ha ha ha, I know I shouldn't do this. And then she grabs one more. And that is when, when the mind goes in one direction, the heart the other. We are not always logical. So let us look at this thing. Many years ago, they did a test with 20 monkeys in a room. What they wanted was to get these monkeys to move, and in order to get them to move, they had a bunch of bananas above a staircase. The staircase was very narrow, which meant only one individual, one monkey at a time, could go up and grab a banana. What the researchers actually did was that they had a mechanical device under one of the staircase, which meant that when one monkey went up and took a banana, it started an ice-cold shower over the other 19. The only thing they knew was the monkeys hate ice-cold water. What they didn't know was if they could connect the two together. If they could see the consequence that if we go up and take a banana, it executes the water. Can they put and match those two together? They didn't know. And if they could, how long time would it take? It took a little time, it took a longer time. Then after a while, they see 3 monkeys sort of understood the whole thing. Why? They interpreted from the outside when they saw these 3 stood in front of a staircase and thwarted the other 17. Then something happened they cannot explain. The other 17 also understood. How they understand, they don't know. If it has to do with brainwaves, language, they don't know. But the group as a whole did not take a banana. And the researchers removed the device and said now they are going to be confused when they go up and take a banana. The problem was no one went up. They had sort of a mindset that we should not take bananas here, okay? And they didn't know what to do. So what they did after a while was that, and they even went so far, they would starve themselves to death. So before that happened, they actually removed one of the monkeys, entered a new one, put in a new monkey in the room that was not a part of the collective group. What did the new monkey do? It went fast like crazy to the bananas. And the all 19 as a group stood and stopped and stopped and stopped. And now it was a difference because the new monkey went on much, much longer. The interpretation from that is because the new monkey never experienced the ice-cold water. But after a while said, okay, I give up. No bananas, I understand. Here we don't take bananas. All right, wow. And the whole group just calmed down. What did the researchers do? They removed one old, in with a new, and now they saw a new pattern because the new monkey did the same thing, went for the bananas, and the other 19, including the new old one, who even didn't even know why he was standing there, but he also stood and stopped the new one. How did the research end? 20 new monkeys in the room, no one took a banana, and no one knew why. Because no one had experienced the iced cold water. And here we have something that we could call what? A mindset. Attitude. I believe you have different words for this. What you believe is true, a belief system, right? Does it make sense so far? Do you have it in your company? This is possible, this is not possible. This is how we do business, not do business. Yes or no? Or if you should work with a maniac like me and I come in and they say, you're going to have a new guy Monday morning. And here I come. Good morning! Wah! Shell! Woo! It's really going to be fun to work with you. Do anyone here get a little signal internally that says, cool down, cool down? And, you know, this is a maniac. Or do you get, oh, that energy won't last long. You need much more energy than that in our company. However, here we are. Have anyone seen a mindset, an attitude? No. It's a word. We don't know even what it is. However, when I start to work what's possible or not possible, that is what I look for. This is my smell. Where is your limit? How do you know? No one has seen this. You have to listen for it. When someone says, that's not possible, or someone says, that's possible, I can do it, I can't do it. It's no way, absolutely. How do you know? It has to originate from somewhere. And when I started, for instance, I'll just give you some example, I'm sorry if I'm using golf, but as a metaphor, 20 years ago, 21 years ago, I went to Stockholm. The Swedish Golf Federation said, wow, we are going to be the best in the world. I should work with the girls for personal development, leadership, training for the mind, and so forth. When I look, if they should be the best in the world for 6 years, they had 6 years to do it. When I looked in the ranking where they were number 24. If you're ranked number 24 in the world and have always been there, 22, 26, 19, and so forth, what have you believed to be possible if you're always around number 20 in the world? What decisions do you take? When you practice, what do you decide when you practice? When you actually played World Championship, what do you believe you can do or not? Is it going to affect yes or no? I don't know. If I come in as a coach and I say, hello, my name is Kjell, you're going to be the best in the world. Do you think they are going to buy it and say, wow, what a guy. Why didn't we think about that before? Yeah, let's go out and do it. Wow, wow, wow. What rocket science. I don't think so. I think even people reject if someone comes in like that. If I come in and say, wow, 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 they're going to say, go away. Because I want to defend what I believed is possible. Otherwise, I can tend to look stupid because I didn't think about it. Does it make sense so far? So I cannot do it. I can't go in and say, best in the world. I have to do it in a different way. And how do I do it? What's possible or not? We're talking about, Björn said, happy customers. How do you know? Well, you measure it, right? Could every customer you have become a promoter? Is that possible? That says, I'm a customer to Atlas Copco. Call me. Let every potential customer call me. I can tell them how you work. Is that possible? Now if you say, no, you're probably going to act accordingly. If you say, yep, you're going to act accordingly. Can you be in love every day? This is called private life, okay? If you say, yep, you're going to act accordingly. If you say, no, I'm the proof of it, then you're going to say, because we find reasons to justify our own mindset. So now, how can we affect it? Is it possible every colleague you have, every day you come to your job, how do you influence everyone you meet? Because they are going to meet the customers. What's possible and not possible? What do you have to believe in order for that to happen? I'm your customer. If I'm going to think that you are great, you're helping me, I'm a promoter, what do I have to have? What's my mindset as a promotional customer? And in order for me to get it, what do you have to have for mindset? Does it make sense, yes or no? Because this goes on and on and on. I would imagine everyone that works with you, you're going to be very contagious. They're probably going to be what you believe. Does it make sense? I studied in the States. I started as a neuroscience. I wanted to become a surgeon in the brain. I studied for 2 years, and then I said, that's not my thing. I want to play golf instead. But in that time, I studied with a guy, and when we saw this, you know what he said? He started to laugh and said, you know what? My mom always to Thanksgiving take the steak that we have and chops off the ends. And I asked her, why do you do it? And she says, well, that's because, I don't know. My mom did. He calls up her granny and says, Mom said you are chopping the ends off. Why do you do it? And she started to giggling in the phone and says, does she still do that? I did that because the oven was too small. And here we go on and on and on and on and on. And we have patterns. And if you are a leader, you are my leader. And I don't know how to lead. Guess what I'm doing? I'm going to do what you do. I look at what you do. I listen to how you say. If you are late to work, I come late. Because that's what you do. I think that's the right way to do because I don't know. Does it make sense, yes or no? We are very much modeling other people. So before I go further, how do we change this? Because every now and then, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you have one of these in your company, because they are fun. These are the people go, I don't care what you guys do. I go up and take a banana. I would call these rebellious monkeys. They just do it. Do you have these guys? It's called Ryanair. Whatever, you know, someone who goes against the current. When I was going to work with these girls, 28 girls should be the best in the world. Is it possible? What do you think most people in Sweden says? I don't know if you know Sweden. But Sweden are very good to look why it doesn't work. So when I talk to people, they said, oh, that won't work. Because of, and then they had a lot of reasons. And I said, well, that's fine, but I don't want to listen to you. I want to listen to the only one who says it's possible. And I found 3. The first one I met was a guy who played tennis. His name was Björn Borg. And he was forbidden to play as a junior because he had such a bad temper. Turned himself around and became the best in the world. And after 1 hour, I could get his mindset. What he believed to be true all the way inside. Then I met another Swedish guy. He was a downhill skier. His name was Ingmar Stenmark, probably the best in the world ever downhill skiing. He had the same mindset. 2 different sports, 2 different people, the same mindset. And so I've been going on, and I gave that mindset to the girls in golf and said, here you have a mindset. What happens if you truly believe this is true? So before I go further, what do you want your customer to have? What do you want their mindset to be? In order for your customers to have that, what mindset do you have to have in order for that to happen? So I'll give you a couple of minutes, 3 and 3 or 2 and 2, however you sit around. Give yourself a couple of minutes, your customer's mindset and your own mindset. Please, a couple of minutes. If I put my first foot on the green and I want to walk away, how do I change? Or how do I change when I put my first foot on the job and I want to be happy? How do I do it? Or when I come home and I want to feel really strong, how do I do it? Or when I meet my colleagues and I want them to feel fulfilled, strong, positive, how do I do it? Maybe it's not possible, but if it was possible, how would I do it? This guy, if that continues, it probably creates a mindset. He sets his mind on, he focuses on the problem. And that's most often the problem. That is that you focus on the problem instead of the solution. So he is stuck in the problem. So what I want to go further and check out, how do you create a mindset that can help you in your job or in your private life, whatsoever, what's important. I'm going to take and start to ask you some questions. And in order to do that, I want you to work 2 and 2. You don't need pen and paper. However, you need to be, one is A and one is B for this exercise. Okay? Then you get the next instruction. Ready? Who is A? Perfect, perfect. Now, this exercise has a purpose. The exercise in my mindset is that the difference that makes the difference, very often internally in a company, externally, is relationship. Does it make sense? Yes or no? If I trust you, you can deliver what I want, you can fulfill my needs, you can help me avoid problems or gain pleasure, I'm going to make business with you. Yes or no? Yes. In order for me to trust you, we need a relationship. What creates a relationship? Trust. And then comes the question, what creates trust? And here we are. So, in one way, we are going to answer that question in a couple of minutes. Before I do that, I want you to do this exercise. And I want A, to ask this question I have here, listen to the answer, memorize it. Then I say stop, and you change roles, and B asks A. Same question. Here is the question I want A to ask B and memorize what he or she says. Why did you choose your current job? And listen to the answer, please. A couple of years ago, they did a research on small infants. These infants were from day one they were born to 12 weeks. They wanted to see, is it a difference where you grow up? Why they took 12 weeks is because when you're 12 weeks, the brain starts to formulate words. Before that, it's only melody. They are more sing-songing. 30 of these babies came from France. 30 of these babies came from Germany. And they said, is it a difference to grow up in Germany versus France? Yes or no? After 12 weeks, they did the research and they saw it was a huge difference. Every baby... What do you start to think about now? What they saw, or actually heard more than saw, was that they heard their melody for everyone in France had a melody on the upswing. So their melody was went up in the end. Every baby from Germany went down in the end. It doesn't say it's good or bad, has nothing to do with that. It has to do that they had modeled their parents. It doesn't say in this investigation why, so it's my interpretation and I want you to think about it. But when I lean back and look at the species of human beings, we are very vulnerable, which means we are dependent at least on one person when we are born, and it usually are our mother. What do we do to enhance our chance to survive? We want our mom to like us or to love us. What do? We model. If we look the same, if we talk the same, if we do the same, it enhances our chance that she likes us. Which means from day one we are born, we model. After 12 weeks, we model words. Then we model everything we can do, behavior, and then we move away from home when we are 18 and we say, I'm never going to be like mom and dad. And then I say, good luck. Because you have modeled everything consciously and subconsciously. Do you recognize this? And then you maybe get married to someone and say, you're exactly like your dad. I'm not. However, what has happened is that we are very good in modeling, both consciously, whatever that is what we see, hear, feel, taste, smell, consciously and subconsciously, because we have done it from day one. Which means if you do the same, you dress the same, you behave the same, or we have the same values, we are probably going to like each other. Does it make sense? On one level. On the surface, maybe we are very different, but we connect somewhere, and I can say, I like you. Does it make sense? And then I might even like the differences, because if we have the same values, I can like the differences. You're totally different from me. I love it, because I learn a lot from you. And here we are. If we create relationships, when I asked these questions, why did you choose your current job? I was after a recipe in your brains. Because some of you did not answer that question. Some of your customers will not answer your questions. They answer what they want you to ask. And that is why you need to listen to how they answer your questions. For instance, here it's probably hundreds of ways of answering this, but I took two perspectives now. One I call procedure, and the other one I call options. If you answered from a procedure, you answered actually, if I say, why did you choose your current job? You might say, I don't remember. And then maybe I started to work here, and I met this person, and I made a phone call, and then I worked there for 3 years, and here I am. That is a procedure. That is how come you got the job, not why. So you actually turned the why into a how. If you answered the question, why did you choose your current job? And you said, fun, challenge. Yep, that's it. That's alternative. That's options. It's either that or that. Or you made a combo. You started fun, money, and then I met this person, and then I did this, and then da-da-da-da-da. Procedure loves when you say how. If I ask you, how are we going to do it? I want a procedure from you. I don't want an option. Then subconsciously I'm going to say, you do not understand me. When I say, how should we solve this? I want the first thing we do, the second thing we do, the last thing we do. I say, wow, finally someone who understands me. Options is much more, we either do it this way, or if that doesn't work, then we do it this way. And if that doesn't work, then we have a third option, okay? I love options. I even love breaking rules sometimes, only for you. If I'm procedure, I like one right way. If I should play golf, I want one right. I want the best swing, and I want one swing, not two. If I'm more option, you start to see the pattern. I want different way of doing it. As soon as you say, this is the best way of doing it, I right off start to think, nah, it has to be a better way of doing it. You can always do it better. If I fly, which I'm going to do tomorrow, do you want, or if you fly whenever, next time you fly, do you want a pilot on a procedure or option? Because procedure is, for instance, to follow a security routine. Options, they say, but we have done it for 16 years. Why should we do it today again? Come on, have you ever landed upside down? Have you done it? Have it? No. Let's try it. Who wants to fly to Sweden? Come on. When you dressed this morning, may I ask you, did you do it in a procedural way or more options? In other words, did you put up your clothes last night in the specific order you were going to put them on? Or did you say, you can't do that. First you have to check out the weather, then you check out your mood, and then you, oh, this is a new option no one has seen before. Wow, check this out. How did you do it? I think we are trained in this way. When I look into DNA, I haven't seen any research that says this is option, people, or procedure. It's something that we are trained into, that we like more or less. For instance, if you have children and you read fairy tales, that is procedure. Once upon a time, and then you have, and then blah, 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 and then everything is over, right? That's a fairy tale. Have you ever read a fairy tale if you have children and you start to read, and then they want to hear the same story every evening? Have you ever experienced that? And it's so dead boring. So you as a parent start to see an option to sneak out 10 more minutes to get 10 minutes for yourself. So you jump one word, one sentence, one chapter, one page, and they scream right out loud, no, that's not the way it is. And you have to start from all over again in a very procedural way. In other words, when you come to your job, do you do it as a procedure? Sales process, is that a procedure? Or is selling more option? In other words, you need both. And what you do as a leader is that you have to make a good guess where I am. When I, for instance, look at the golf girls and they're going to perform world class, I have to take an advanced guess. How do I do it? For instance, when they warm up. I see these 28 girls, I have pen and paper, and I write down what I see they do. One of the girls, for instance, her name is Annika Sörenstam. She was an amateur, and I don't know if you know who she is, but she became the best in the world. What she does as an amateur, she stands like this with her foot and look for a flat space. Then the first club is a wedge. Second club, always number 8. And I write it down for every girl. Now, if I want to create a relationship of trust, how do I do it? I can stand here and I say, hello, are you stupid? Do you think you're going to ever be the best in the world if you always stand on a flat space? Hello, a golf course is up and down and side. You have to practice on that. Or I park my bus where she is, with the bus stop. If she's here, coaching means a bus. So I check where is she, and I park the bus and hope create a relationship. And I said, Annika, what I see you do is that it's very important to stand flat. And then the first club you take is a wedge, and the second club you do is an 8-iron. And then she looks at me and says, wow, this guy has seen me. Then, if she doesn't go to options, is she ever going to be the best in the world? No. In other words, I need to get her here, but I start here. And then I says, when you take your third club, what options do you have? Then I go back again and said, which is the first thing you want to practice, up or down? So I start, park the bus, relationship, options, back. So now I want you to go back in your pairings. How did you answer your question? Did you answer from a procedure, more options, or did you do a combination in this simple exercise? Just go back to your pairings. How did you answer the question? Please. So this is just what you can listen for. In other words, meet me where I am, and wherever I am, meet me and then take me to the other side. That is how you create world class for me. Does it make sense? For instance, if I exaggerate, almost it's like silly. But let's say I want to lose weight. And then I say, well, I think I'm going to go on the Atkinson diet. No carbohydrates. Wow. No, I'm actually going to go kickboxing. I think that is good for my temperament. No, I think I saw my arm off. I'm also going to lose weight. Make a good guess. Procedure or options? If you want, even if you have the inclination to say, you are stupid, I can understand that, you won't create a relationship with me. Where would you go now? That I'm internally say, you understand me. You need to come up with a new option. For instance, drink milk the rest of your life. Or go out and run. Or whatever you say, I say, yeah, a new option I won't do. Because I love options, but I have very hard to start things. Because what I need a procedure in order to do it. If you're married to a person who finish things, if they paint a room, they paint the whole room. They program a computer, the whole computer, then you're probably married or together with a person on the procedural side. If you're married to a person where it's half cleaned, half done, it's probably options. And they are happy every time when they start things, but they have very hard finishing things. It looks as if you start to think now. I don't know what you guys are doing. So, and it's not right or wrong, it's just that you need to train them both. So some people, if I'm very procedural, you can probably trust me because you know I deliver. What's my problem then? My challenge is that I have a hard time to do new things because I love to do what I'm already doing. Here, I'm very creative. However, I have hard to get it done and get it finished. So you need to help me in both. And in order to help me, you start where I am, and then you drive me over to the other side with the bus. Does it make sense? And if this is a coaching way, whatever that is, it's in language patterns, when you start to listen how they do, or look to their body language. Most procedural people do this with their hands. Options very often do this, and it gives you a hint. When you say, how do you think we should solve this? I don't know. Then you know, it's not that exaggerated, but almost. So here we are. If I put my first foot on the green, want to walk away, I create the mindset that, I'm not a good putter, blah, blah, blah. How do we create a good mindset? This is a model, and it's not true. It's just to show what, for me in my world, what a coaching could be. I'm working with, and I told Björn, with H&M leaders around the world, and they wanted a model of coaching whereby they have a very fast leadership. They are not sitting down very much. They are like on their toes. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it's very similar in that sense. How does it look like? You always have a now. This is the way it looks now. This is profitability right now. This is how we sell, market, so forth right now. Very often, when we are now, we say we want to improve, we want to increase, we want sustainability, we want more profits. So this is like an outcome or desire, a want, a goal. Have you ever had, personally, a state, for instance, you start to get an, wow, I want that. During New Year, have you ever been in a certain specific state, New Year's Eve, when you make a promise? And you say, beach 2011. Have you ever done that? And you sort of see a picture in the future where you look fit, strong. No, not you guys. No? No? No one? No? Have you heard someone else? You know what you mean? And here you start with so much motivation. And then halfway, I believe, and I don't know if it's true, you know that better than I do, but I think everything falls down by gravity. Even motivation falls down by gravity. So after a while, I go straight down in problems, and I start to think it was much better before when I could eat what I wanted. Because that's what I remember. And I look back, and so many are stuck in problems. So I need what? I need new resources. Maybe from you. You remind me, Kjell, what did you want? What was your outcome? Or what resources do you need? Or what actions do you need to take? And then you follow up. If you combine these, you get the word NOPRAFU. Now, outcome, problem, resources, actions, and follow up. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the ordinary week that you work, what are people talking about? What are people focusing on? Your customers, your colleagues, at home privately. Most people in my world talk about how it is right now. Or they talk about how they want it to be. Can you imagine if it was blah, blah, blah? Or they are stuck in problems, model hindered, it doesn't work because of this. Or they say, can you imagine if we had time, competence, money, resources? Or they talk about, can you imagine if someone did something? And it's very often not themselves. And this is, in my world, what most people focus on in the whole world. I've tried it in Bangladesh, China, Sweden, North America. I tried everywhere. Is this really? I tried with 17 young girls. I worked with them for a year just to see if this works. Is this what we focus on? This is where sales takes place. This is where we have to meet people and create relationship and trust. Does it make sense so far? And I challenge you. You got only 20 seconds. Break it. Say, no, this doesn't make sense, yes or no. Go back to your own experience. What do your customers talk about? Is it mostly problems, or is it what they want? Is it what you should do, or is it more resources they want, or the now? Your colleagues, what they need, the sales force, what do they focus on? Instead of 20 seconds, I give you 2 minutes. Please, really, criticize this as much as you can. 2 minutes, please. Does it make sense? Is this what they focus on? Yes or no? NOPRAFU. All right. Does it make sense so far? Is it okay? Most what we talk about, focus on, is sort of inside of this. Does it make sense, yes or no? Because then this is where we need tools. For instance, inside, you will definitely know in actions if they go to alternatives or procedures and what they need. I would imagine everyone who loves procedures is still upset why I haven't finished this story. Because if you love procedures, you want to know the end. You want to conclude it, right? If you're more into options, you said, well, the guy looks old. He probably forgot about it. He looks senile, that guy, he's human to forget. So here we are, justifying, we go into our own way of thinking and doing things, and we look into leadership or coaching or a way of leadership and coaching. It's within this sort of structure. So in my world, we are on a journey. When we look at parts and services, it's the journey that you are taking into the future. And how do we create an outcome of happy customers? What is it that you're doing already today that works? Because obviously you are very successful already. That you take care of what do you do that is good? What more resources do you need? And if it comes up problems, what could it be? So here we can start to utilize this model as such. Let's say that I love results. I put it down here. I don't know about you. Do you love results? People who love to compete. People going, if they go on a journey and they sit in the car here and they have their destination here, they go as fast as possible. Have you ever met a person like that? They even compete at home. They're like, yes, I brushed my teeth faster than you. Have you, They love it. Why? Because in their world, they feel good about themselves when they can create results. And not everyone do, but they do. Is it good or bad? Positive, negative? That is just labeling. If you look to people who love results, you can check out in their eyes. You can ask them, what do you think about results of competing? And check out their eyes. If their pupils dilate and becomes bigger, they love to compete. When I'm standing, for instance, horseback riders, I stand very close to them to see what happens to their eyes, or Nick Faldo when he plays golf. Because when you love to do something, your pupils delete. They become bigger. So this is an old trick for single people to get a relationship. And now we are totally outside this course, okay? Because if you are, and this is only for single people, if you have an outcome to become together with someone, you can try tonight in the bar. What you do in the bar is you check out their eyes. And you see the change. And then you move closer and you go, larger, continue, smaller, other direction. Very simple advice here, okay? And then you might say, yeah, but that's not true. Not everyone loves to compete. Some people actually go to the job because they love relationship. I go to the job because you are there. We can have a good laugh together. You see me and I see you, and it's like to go on vacation. You go away and you stop for a cup of coffee and you get there when you get there. And if you don't, I don't care, as long as we had good time together. It's called marriage, okay? And then you say, well, what is this? What has this to do with Atlas Copco? What does it have to do with parts and services? What does it have to do with me? May I ask you, what makes time stand still for you? Relationship or results? How do you treat me? If you're going to park the bus where I am in coaching, my values is that I love results, which means I probably want to have results first, then I want to talk. But if you love relationships, you probably want to talk first. And then, when you feel loved or liked or seen, you're going to create results. Which means if we work together and you are my boss, I make this up, you come up to me and let's say you like relationships, you come up and say, hello, Kjell, how was the weekend? Whoa, did you have a good time? And the only thing I'm sitting, how many times should we say hi? We said hi last week. Can you leave me alone so I can work here? Because I want to create results. On the other hand, if you love results and I go for relationships, maybe you come in and you don't even say hi. You say, did you fix the report we talked about on Friday? I said, wow. Here I'm just a little piece of machinery in the big part called Atlas Copco. Wow. No one talks about me, about my dog. So you don't create what? A relationship. Which means if you understand me, and leadership is understand. It's not overstand. It's understand my needs. Does it make sense so far? And here we have some people. I worked with a pharmaceutical company, AstraZeneca, for 8 years. And the chief researchers around the world, they never took vacation. They lived, most of them, very alone. And if they should go on a vacation like this, I make this up because they didn't, but if they should have done it, they should have organized, structured, planned, and then they went back and planned even in smaller detail and smaller, which meant they never went on vacation, but they were very good in planning. And I think they did the same thing in their sexual life. They were thinking about everything, but they never tried. They only did it in their, And they love routines. Then some people that I work with fighting pilots up in the air, and I work with panic. In other words, how do you handle fearful emotions? So I sit up in the planes and work with them side by side. And I work with Mount Everest guys, so I climb in mountains with them. So I know how they do with fears. These people in my opinion, are very geared towards risk. If you have worked with a person like this, you know very well who they are. They are very few, and they are honest when they say, you never know if you have a job tomorrow. You never know. And you say, you are sick. Yeah, but you never know. They are really happy if they get fired tomorrow. Can you imagine to have a marriage to one of these? You never know if we are married tomorrow. You never know. Well, you promised in the church. Well, so I just wanted to wrap this up before we take a little break. That is, I want to ask a question for you. We are on a journey in Atlas Copco. You're ahead. You have a future here. What makes the journey worthwhile? Why are you sitting here? If you don't even know why you sit here, do something else with your life. Because this journey is important. I said to the girls 21 years ago, to the golfing girls that should become the best in the world. And when I said that, why do you sit here? One of the girls stood up and said, well, now when you mention it, I want to sing opera. And I said, no. And all of a sudden, in the room, it was only one person that loved playing golf, loved the sound of the club towards the grass. All the others were sitting, well, you know, my dad wanted. I lived by a golf course, blah, blah, blah. Why are you sitting here? When is time still for you? When you just said, wow. Is it when you create results? Is it when you have a good relationship? Is it more routines when you get control on things? Or is it more, oh, you never know what happens? Or is it a mix of all four? And that makes it worthwhile. Because world class, you need all four. If you don't have it, you won't have world class. Because when you create a group that you have, when these four are met, the needs are met, the need for safety, the need for love, the need for uniqueness, the need for excitement and risk, you have a group that is growing together and are very willing to give. Otherwise, they only want to get. So when I look, for instance, if I could take that, continue that with Annika Sörenstam, I could see she was very good in routines, very good in results, but I needed to get her to relationship and first of all to risk, because she didn't want to risk. So that's the coaching part. How do you coach your colleagues? You have to meet them and go somewhere else. Does it make sense? In order, how do you know it? Should we do a Myers-Briggs 360, check out ourselves as leaders? Maybe. I think sometimes the only thing you need is curiosity. Check out how people talk. Check out yourself. Many years ago, I was supposed to take a journey. I live in Sweden, and I model my dad. When I get on the map I should go somewhere, I measure the distance, average speed, so I get the time. And at this time it should take 2 hours, 10 minutes. And every time when I sit in the car, I clock. Why? Because I get a sense of control. And as soon as I have control, I can start to compete. I love to get there in 2 hours, 9 minutes, because then I live 1 minute before my own life. Is it stupid? Yes, but it works for me. Okay? I have 3 children. First day in my vacation, I go away. 2 hours, 10 minutes. After a while, my oldest daughter, we hit the next town. She goes, Dad? And I said, yeah? She says, can we have an ice cream? And I check out my watch. It had 18 minutes has passed. So I just heard myself. It just came out. It just, no! And I just continued to drive. The atmosphere in the car died. Totally quiet for several minutes. Then the same daughter with the same happy tonality says this. And that changed my whole life. She goes, okay, Dad, now we know we cannot get an ice cream. But if we could get one, which particular type could we get? And I have tried to draw that, to sort of see it, and I draw it like this. I think it's like a boomerang, like they have in Australia. You know, the weapon that is flat on the under and, you know, bulky on the top. So if they throw it away, they miss the target, it comes back to the other side and take. That's her question. She went out on one place, came back on a different. What she did, she was so clever, and I think all children knows this. If you have children, you recognize this question. They follow you. It's so nice with people who says, yes, I understand. What she says, we know we cannot get an ice cream. Then she says, she focuses in on what? The outcome. These are the best salespeople in the world. They never lose track of what they want. Yes or no? So they say, I know we cannot get an ice cream, but if we could get one. And then they end up with a question, which is very hard to not answering. They say, which particular type could we get? When she says that, I start to see all these different types, you know, and I love ice cream. So all of a sudden, I stopped buying ice cream. I love this question. I have done it for so many years. Ice cream boomerang. Follow, always say yes. And then go to a different place to the outcome. What do you want? And then end up with a question. When I came back from vacation, the first day I worked with the opera in Gothenburg. This lady says, I'm going to sing a Bohème, a Puccini opera, and I'm going to, what do you say in English? High pitch C, right? But like, whoop, really go high. And that's like a very bonus in the premiere. She was very nervous and says, I don't dare to take the high pitch C. I'm coaching her. Should I stand? Yeah, come on. Woo, woo, woo. I don't think so. But I can always follow her. So when she says, I'm so nervous, I don't dare to take high pitch C, I follow her and says, I know, I understand you are so nervous you don't dare to take high pitch C. However, but if you did, and if you were breathing the same way you're doing now when you practice, how would you do it? And she says, I don't know. Then I was too fast. I didn't use my heart. I used my mind. So when she says, I don't know, I heard myself, I know you don't know, but if you knew, it went too fast. She says, wow, I feel brain dead. And if you have a colleague that says that I feel brain dead, then you can say, I have known that for a long time. However, if you blah, blah, blah. So I'm just before the break, would you mind turn to your neighbor and then you say, which journey are you on? When does time stand still for you? Is it when you compete? You just love it. Or is it more relationship? Or is it more control, routines? Or is it, you never know what happens? So maybe the person beside you says, I don't know. I've never been thinking about that. Then you say, I know you had never been thinking. But if you would, against all odds, succeed today, blah, blah, blah. And I know you don't want to do this exercise, but if you wanted to. And I know it's extremely difficult, but if it was easy. And I know it doesn't work, but if it did. How many times you just turn around and round? So turn to your neighbor and ask, which is the most important if it exists? Results, relationship, routines, or risk? 2 minutes, and then we do something entirely different. Of course, you can look individually to see to one individual and to look to see how can I help this person to help him or herself to develop him or herself in Atlas Copco, in parts and services. Then one way of looking at it is to these needs or values. This is all the way inside. There's no way you can see it. You have to interpret it from outside. What happens to a group if you don't have people that love routine? You have no one who's producing. These are the people who are actually doing it. What happens with if you have no one in the group with relationship? I would imagine it removes the glue and the fun and the good atmosphere in the group, right? It becomes very much up in the head. If you have no one going for results, you have very much routines, you have relationship, but no one goes for results, what happens? You're doing the same things over and over. No one thinking in new ways, you know. Let us try this. The rebellious monkey. Results. Really going for it, striving, driving. And the risk, that's the rebellious monkey. That is chancing a little bit, risking. So this is the only way to learn new, is to risk. So in my world, when you look into yourself, when was the last time you were very much in routines? When do you go into routines and do things? When do you jump in relationship? When are you strong in relationships? When are you strong in results, driving force, bringing the future into the now? Because management is within this circle. Leadership, that is without. Here's the future. Leadership is to bring the future into the now and do something and act as if we're going to be in the future. As Björn said, with your products in China, in a different way, to be there, to feel the atmosphere. What do the customers need now? And be the first to deliver it. And all of a sudden you can ask questions to bring the future into the now. So this is one way to look to the group. You can look to individuals. And however, I think the journey starts with you, when you look to yourself. Because if you love, for instance, results, and I go for relationship, probably we're not going to match. I want to talk very much about relationships. Does it make sense? So here you can see, when do you get stuck on people? When do you get irritated? I would imagine it's one of these four. And then you also know your own strength right off. Just a little hint on this. I think I heard that survival is the strongest instinct in human beings. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. It's no evidence whatsoever, but I think it's going to be proven. It's not proven yet scientifically, but I think the strongest inclination we do as human beings is that we want to recognize ourselves, which means that something happens, I go inside and say, have I been this before? What does it mean? I want to recognize it. Which means that when we are in fear, we go inside and said, have I been in panic before? And we create more panic, which means that is the problem. To make it concrete, when I met Mr. Faldo, he had been gone 4 years for golf. He had been the best in the world, gone. He called and said, would you mind come to the States? And I go over. He stands like this and warms up. Everyone stands on, called driving range. They stand like this and warm up. No one knows why, but everyone is talking about monkeys. My job is that I'm standing here. What I see the difference that makes the difference between his extremely good shots and his average shots. I check first his posture with his shoulders. If they are wrong, the balance is wrong. If the balance is wrong, his technique is wrong. After a while, he says, do you see what it is? And I said, no. Then he hits a couple of more balls, and he says, do you see what it is now? And I said, no. Then he hit a couple of more, and I think he became upset because he says, do you see what it is now? And I said, no. It looks good to me, everything. You let me know if you know. And he says, don't you see how short I hit? This is the course with the longest course, longest holes, and I hit short. If you were his coach, what would you say now? Should I agree and say, yeah, now when you mention it, really short, really? Wow, that's actually the shortest I've ever seen. Does that help him? I wouldn't think so. Should I contradict and say, no, I think you should hit really far compared to my grandmother? How should I say it? If I do or don't, I'm doomed, which means I use an ice cream boomerang. But if we check out and we go beyond now, where is he going? If we want to recognize ourselves, he hasn't delivered for 4 years. Where do you think he goes? Inside or outside for solutions? Inside for recognizing, have I had a problem before? Are you kidding? He's only going to have more problems. So I need to get him outside, external. How? I ask a question. And I want him to get on the outcome he wants. How? I ask a question. So I follow him first and say, I hear that you say that you hit short. I need to create a relationship that he understands I understand him. I hear you saying you hit short. May I ask you, who hits far? And I go here. Far was his outcome. Who is someone outside of himself? Am I clear how I did it? Who hits far? He just looks at me and says, who hits far? And I say, yeah. Then he says, Tiger Woods. He hit far at that time. And then I say, I know you are not Tiger Woods, but if you were, how would you hit it? How is a procedure. As soon as he says how, it's a procedure. So he stands up, more erected, more tall, and he stands like this. If I were Tiger Woods. And Faldo, he's very tall, and usually cramps on his shoulders, but now he stood like Tiger Woods and said, if I were Tiger Woods, I would hit the ball like this. And the ball, 20 yards further, he just looked. He said, but that's not me. And then he started to laugh. And he said, he played that tournament, as long as it was a tough shot, he said, how would Tiger Woods do? And he said, I know I'm not Tiger Woods, but if I were. He came 5th on that tournament, one of the biggest tournaments in the world. He had been gone for 4 years. He came 5th. Up came a Swedish player, his name is Jesper Parnevik, and he said, Kjell, what have you done with Faldo? I didn't even qualify and were among the 100 best. He came 5th. What did you do? Should I say, he thinks he's Tiger Woods. I don't think so. I don't know what you guys earn money on, but I wouldn't earn money on answers like that. Any more questions so far? Is it okay so far? You let me know if I'm too slow or too fast. And we are still talking about something fussy called attitudes, mindset. It's really, if you take a color, a spray, a can of spray of red color, and you go like this, and you spray in the air. It doesn't get stuck anywhere. You can't see it. That is why when we talk about thoughts, mind, you have to have the right attitude. What is that? No one has seen it. That is why I'm trying to spray on the flip chart so you can see and you can reflect upon yourself. And even though I talk about golf, I hope you probe inside and say, what does this mean for me? What does it mean in my job? How do I do it? For instance, the ice cream boomerang is a fantastic little tool, and without exaggeration, I think I could stand at least 2 weeks telling you stories from mails that I received from the world. People are working with young children with disabilities to, I don't know how many Olympic gold medalists that have worked with this ice cream boomerang. Because, and how it works, I cannot really tell. I can't put the finger, but I know that it works. That when people get too stuck in problems, what you can do is that you pace them. In other words, you pace them and model so they feel you understand, and then you can go wherever you want. Does it make sense? For instance, if you have a problem, what's your most common problem that you are facing, that people come up to you and say, this is a problem? What's that? You have no problems.
No inventory.
No inventory. And is that a good one? That was not a good one, or was it a perfect one? Perfect one. We have no inventory. How would you answer that then? I come up to you and say, we have no inventory.
Wrong. No right inventory.
We don't have the right inventory. And I say, okay, I'm dead. What should I do then? I have to do something. Okay.
No, I think the answer would be, but what would your result be if you did have the right inventory?
Perfect. And then you can follow exactly as you said now. I can hear that you say we don't have the right inventory. But if we had, what would be the consequences? What would be the outcome if we had? And then they said, well, da, 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 da. And then you can say, well, what alternatives do we have in order to fix it? And what's the first thing we have to do? Because as soon as you go to the first thing, then you are into a procedure. If you say, what's the alternatives, you give options. But you start not from the problems, because then you're still in the problem. As John did, was to go from the outcome and then to the alternatives and then into the procedure. And then you say, what resources do you need? I know you have everything already, but if you needed something, what would it be? This doesn't work. I can hear you say it doesn't work. How would you like it? This doesn't work. What is it specifically that don't work? And you stay for 1 minute in the problem. Or what do you need in order to solve it? I hear this is a problem. What do you need to do it? What alternatives do you have? And what's the first thing you're going to do with it? So you take like a circle in the roundabout, and then you can go wherever you want. Does it make sense? And I know you don't want to do this, but if you wanted to. But probably it doesn't work. But if it did, how much would you sell? And then I said, okay, let's double the budget. And they say, we can't do that. I know we can't do it, but if we did. How would you become, and Björn talked about more efficiency and to become effective. What is it that we have to do differently in order to double our budget? I know it's impossible, but if it was possible, how would we do it? Because that's the way we have to think, to bring the future into the now. And the future is results that we don't have yet, but we want the results. But most often people are stuck on the problem and justifying why it doesn't work. So we need, by a question, to model them for a while, to pace them and say, yeah, I understand. Because we can understand. Maybe we don't have the right inventory. Then it's, thanks for telling me. So we can, what is the right inventory for you? And then I can at least create trust and relationship. I heard what you said. I'm sorry. Let's see what I can do and when I can come back to you. Right? You know this already. Nothing that I mean, it's crystal clear what I mean when you look at this chart, right? I know you know this already. You can this. You're doing it every day. What I'm trying is to put it up on the surface and put sort of point to it and say, how important is this? What would happen in your life if you had more tools to easily and effective when you yourself get stuck in a problem, because it's called being a human. And when your colleagues get stuck here, or your customers, very nicely meet them and go somewhere else so you can solve it. What would happen? And you start to listen. Are they in procedure, or are they more in options? Don't you talk differently to different people already? Yes or no? You're doing this already. So it's nothing new. And I want you to, because when you put targets and you talk goals, mission, vision, and stuff like that, I want you to give you one recipe in the brains before I dive into the brains. Is that okay? Because if you don't listen to that, you can work for ages with some people and they will never go for goals, because they don't. They are not goal-oriented, whether you believe it or not. Is that okay? In order to find that out, you have to listen to a thing. And in order to listen, who is A and who is B? Who is A, who is B? You have 3 seconds. Ready? Here's the question that I want A to ask B. What is important in your, sorry, this should be current job. I said current job. What is important in your current job? If I ask you, John, what would it be? One word, only one word.
Fleet. Fleet.
Fleet. Good. But if that's for you. For you internally. Is that why you go to the job?
No.
No. So when I listened to you, I heard externally what was important. So is it okay if I ask you internally, for you yourself, what's your driving force? What's most important for you in your job? That you just, I know it doesn't exist, but if it did.
Results.
Results, thanks. Okay. I want you to turn to your neighbor and do exactly what I did with John right now. One word, what's most important, and it should be something internal. It could be money external as well. That's fine, okay? I want you to extend this exercise, and it's just for the purpose to listen to what's the driving force for the one I'm working with. So you know what to listen for and how you can help that person to reach his or her goal. So is it okay if I continue with you, John? Is that okay? We just do it as a demonstration. So what's important for you in your job is results, right? That's the content, what you want. Now, may I ask you, why is it important with results? Make it simple. One word. Why is results important?
Success.
Success. Thanks. Now I'm really going to be the consultant that I am. May I ask you, why is success important to you? One word. Maybe it doesn't exist, but if it did. I'm sorry, I'm totally... I hope I do it with my heart. So I mean, I don't want to manipulate you at all. Because if success, these final downtown, that's the foundation, that's it. But if I ask you, why is success important for you?
Money.
Money. Okay. And if I ask you, and
Let's be honest.
perfect. And then, may I ask you, why is money important for you? Comfort. Thanks. I could continue forever and say, why is comfort? What we are doing now is you are building values in John's life, what's important. Now I don't go further. I want you to ask 3 times. If it was success or results, I ask, why is results important? One word. Success. Why is success important? Money. Why is are you with me? 2 and 2, please. When you're doing this, you will actually reach somewhere within when you're going to be conscious how you do things. I looked over 20 years to change. What is that really makes permanent change? Because some people change in the short run. For me, for instance, I had cancer. Then I'm very likely to change. Whatever it takes to be healthy, right? Because people are very open when it's crisis. However, if you check out 90% of people doing heart surgery because of bad habits of smoking, eating, 90% of those patients go back to the old habits. How come you go back to old habits when you know it's not good for you? But in the short run, they are very willing to change. Then they took and say, isn't it anyone that has succeeded to change? Well, they looked to patients, to a guy, his name is Dr. Dean Ornish. He took an amount of patients, had the same heart problems. They had to start to quit smoking, eating very healthy, doing aerobics, meditation, and yoga, 5 things. And then after 3 years, 77% were still on the diet. How come he succeeded and not almost no one else? What's the difference that makes the difference? This is something that we have to know as leaders when we want to create a difference and a change. And when you ask these questions, it gives you a hint. It is not the truth. However, if I may use the example, John, if that's okay. John could answer in 2 ways, and that is what I listen for. This is what we are doing every time we take a decision. We could either do something that we gain something, for instance, pleasure. We create something, we go towards something. Or I take the decision to avoid pain. I don't want to, I want to quit, I want to have less of this, I want to have more of that. So what I'm listened for when John answered was, is he going to give me a word that is towards something he wants more of or something he wants less of? And he started with results. That is towards, he wants results. Then he goes, that's success. Then I said, what does that mean? Why? And he says, money. And then he says, why money? And he says, comfort. If I had continued, maybe he said, I don't want to be poor. That had been away from. So all the way inside, maybe he's more on the, instead of being motivated, he's threatuated, if I may play with the word. Which means many people do very much avoiding pain. I talked to a lady in Canada 2 weeks ago, I worked there, and she said she worked with a millionaire. He had been a millionaire 4 times, which means he lost his money 3 times. Why? Because if you look to this now, do you think he's away from or towards? He was away from poverty. He hated poverty, which meant he had created a state of enormous energy to getting away from poverty, which meant he was creative, he kept promises, he had procedures, and then when he was wealthy, what did he do? He had nothing to go towards. He had only away from poverty, which meant he didn't come up on meeting, he didn't keep his promises, lost his money. Then he said, shit, I'm poor again. And then, wow, and he started. So it's like a windshield scraper. And here you are. What's your driving force? Because if you are talking to me, and I'm on this side, I don't do anything until I'm threatened. And you say, Kjell, you're going to earn more money. You're going to get the summer house. I don't care, because it doesn't get me all the way inside. But if you say, Kjell, what happens if you don't do it? What are you going to lose? How is it going to affect you negatively? I say, ugh. And all of a sudden, I say, I'm starting to feel a sense of you pushing the buttons that makes me move. And then I might go over here. Does it make sense now? And then it boils back to you. When you are a leader, do you ask questions on this side because you are threatened? Or do you ask questions on this side because you are motivated? Then you miss half of us. You need to ask both sides. When people have a problem, for instance, cancer, they are on this side. But it helps them in the short run. I'm very motivated to change. But if I don't know what I'm going towards, I go back to old habits. Does it make sense? So I need a long-term goal that I can see, which means here we have pictures. I need to see this. And I need to see what happens if I don't. Pain pictures, pleasure pictures. Because talk doesn't stay in the brains, but picture does. So you need to paint pictures. What happens if we don't work, take care of our customers? What happens if we don't have happy customers? What happens if we don't create relationship? What happens? What do you see? What do you see if we do? I know it doesn't maybe work, but if it did, how would it look? What would you say to yourself? What feeling do you have? So we work with both pain and pleasure. because that's the only driving forces we have. So go back to your groups. How did you answer? Did you start with results, success, money, and comfort, and maybe I don't want to be poor, or I don't want to be alone, or I'm afraid of whatever? Does it make sense? Please let me know if I'm unclear. So go back to your groups. How did you answer? Did you end up here, or did you end up on that side? 2 and 2. Do you know that the person is like this? No. This is a way we are trained to think. We have both ways in our brains. It's just that by habit, we usually use the either or the or. So you have to use both. So it boils back to you as a leader. How comfortable are you to use both? Because if you want to create a relationship with me, and I'm your customer, I'm more, let's say, geared towards I don't like problems, and I'm very motivated getting away from. If you say, well, I want to do this, maybe I don't want that. I want you first to understand and say, wow, so A, that's a big problem for you. Absolutely. What's the next problem? I say, finally, someone who asks things that I want to talk about. Problems, I love problems, more problems. And then say, what else do you want to avoid in the future? If you had a superb company doing service with you, what else do you avoid? Well, I avoid this, I don't like this, I don't want this. When talking that language, you match my way of thinking. And then when you have sort of listened here for a while, where do you go? What do you want instead? Then you come to what do I want? What is the right inventory? Because here I just tell you what I don't want. I don't want the wrong inventory. It doesn't help you. But you can create a relationship to understand that this is a problem for me. Thank you. I want to do business with you because you are the first one who listens to me. Then when you have listened, you come over and say, what is the right inventory? What would work for you? And it's no difference to work with teenagers if you have those at home. Because they are swinging back and forth all the time. Right? And you might start in one way. For instance, I have a bad back, which is called scoliosis. Right? And the doctors come up and say, you have to have painkillers the rest of your life. Or eat cortisone. And I said, do I have an alternative? And I jump into alternative. I said, well, maybe you can work out. It has worked for some people. And do I like to work out? No. But it's worse to have pain. It's like you, if I say cleaning your home, I don't know if you ever do it, but if you did. If I make a rough guess, okay, I just guess and I generalize. Let's say that that's on the pain side, which means you avoid it, until something worse than that comes up, and it's called exam in school. Have you ever had an exam, and it's all of a sudden very fun to clean? And clean jumps on that side, and you start to clean your bathtub, you clean everything, because you have something that's called worse. Are you with me now? In other words, when I start for my back and I say, what should I do? I do cross-country skiing. Do I like it? No, not to start with. But when I find that that is better than to eat painkillers, slowly but surely, working out is better for me than painkillers. And after a while, I'm motivated to get out. And after a while, I can ask the question and say, if I can ask the question, when I have been working out, how would I feel? And when I see that picture and feel how it feels to be working out, I feel great, and I get the motivating resources right now to do it and the action. So when we do a change, permanent change, you need both. Something to go away from in the short run, something to go towards, which means you have to be very clear on your objectives in Atlas Copco, in parts and services. How do you communicate your goals? Because everyone has to see it, hear it, and feel it. And I'll come back to that very, very soon. So what's your dominant factor? Is it away from or is it towards? Just if you should say you're feeling now, are you more towards away from or are you more towards your sensation now? 2 and 2, 20 seconds. We could have been going on for a long time, just working with this model, because when you probe deeper, you can go, for instance, into state and say, how do you change your state? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, on a scale from 1 to 10 in energy, let's say you are very happy, you feel strong, you're well rested, maybe in love, whatever that is. When you are in a 10, doesn't that increase the probability to see possibilities than problems? Yes or no? Meanwhile, if you're tired, you stayed up last night, blah, blah, something has happened, you're jet-lagged, whatever, in that state of low energy, it's more likeliness that we see problem and we are away from problems. How should I go away from this? Does it make sense? So here comes what management and leadership is very much about for yourself. That is to be responsible for your own states. And the two factors that are components of state is your body, your physiology, and your brains. In other words, how you focus. And now I'm not going to take care of your body. But if I should, no. If I would, that is why I am out climbing in mountains with executive groups. I go biking with them. I measure their pulses, I measure the blood, everything. Because if you change your body, you're very likely to change your way of thinking. It goes hand in hand. Now I'm going to go through the brains. Is that okay? And very often these are very much together. For instance, if you're driving a car, let's say you have a problem, you're stuck behind a queue or a line. And all of a sudden you see a possibility, an option to pass a huge truck. It's snow, so it's snowing and your windshield are going like this. You've been driving for a half hour. When you sat in the seat, you're sitting like this. 30 seconds, you start to relax. 3 minutes, relax more. 30 minutes, everything goes down by gravity, right? Now, I exaggerate now. Let's say you take the decision to pass the truck. In this same instant, you take the decisions in your mind. When you see you're going to pass, how do you react with your body? Do you change your body at all? And if you do you go lower or do you go forward? Why do you go forward? Do you open your eyes or do you squint? Do you stop breathing? Some people even shut the radio off because they don't want to get stirred by their senses. Why do you do it? Because these are linked together. How you use your body and your posture will immediately affect your brains. So one way of working with your state in leadership or management, that is to start to work out. To get energy, cardio, 30 minutes a day. It's a super thing that I think you should be paid for to do during your job. Sorry, did I say that? No, I didn't. I don't know where it came from. What? Wow! However, let us go back to this one. We had an original question that I haven't answered yet, and that is mindset, right? How do you set your mind and where does it come from? We want to have world class in parts and services. That's the outcome. We want happy customers. How do we do it? Well, it starts somewhere with ourselves. And how is that? This is a map of our, not there, here it is, sorry. How our brains looks like. I know it's not true, but if it was. We used to divide it in two, one conscious part and one subconscious. Einstein in his time in the 1950s, said that the conscious part is 10%, subconscious 90%. Today, researchers around the world says that is 3%, subconscious 97%. It's not a good trend, so think while you can, right? This is not good in my world. However, so we have a conscious part, that is what you see, hear, feel, smell, taste right now. It's like your laptop. And then we have this huge hardware, so to speak, underneath. The hard disk, right? With all your memories. Here you have, for instance, system of procedure, options. We have away from, towards, etc. 30 years ago, neuroscientists had two questions. The first one, what happens if I break my arm? Will that be a memory mark in my brain? Sort of you can lift this off and say, there it is. You broke your arm in Örebro, 2011 in January. That was the first question. The second question they had was, if I only imagine myself breaking my arm, if I very intensely in my fantasy break my arm, is that going to make a physiological mark in my brains? That was the two questions they had 30 years ago. So these sort of plus and minuses symbolizes experiences from a positive, negative side. Let's say we have reality, whatever that is. I make this up now. Here you have reality. Woo-hoo, here's reality. Now, when I perceive reality, is it true, and I want you to be with me now, is it true that when I behold reality, and this is my eyes, I always do that through my own conscious and subconscious, through see, hear, feel, smell, taste. I always see reality through my own experiences, yes or no? Or someone feels inside, no, I sneak underneath. I'm always objective. Yes or no? Because scientists have believed that for so many years, now they realize they don't. If this is reality, this is my inner reality, and I always perceive reality through my own experiences, it means no one in here has ever experienced reality. It means no one on this earth has never experienced reality. We have experienced our own reality over and over again. Which means when we go in and interpret what happens, that's why what I said is our first inclination is not survival, is that we want to recognize ourselves. When something happens here, woo-hoo, crisis. Crisis can only be crisis, whatever that is. Now the question comes, what means crisis for me and for Atlas Copco? If we have good experiences from it, we're probably going to interpret it, yes, and see possibilities. If we have minuses and deposit experience of minus, we're going to say problems. Does it make sense so far, yes or no? This means when you meet customers, and we want happy customers, and we want to create world class, it means it's one map talking to another map. We never, hardly ever experience reality. We talk about each other's maps of reality. That is why we ask questions and say, how do they construct their map of us? For instance, do we have the right inventory? How would we know if we don't ask? What do they like about us if we don't ask? I think you call it MPS. What you measure is their plus and minuses about you, yes or no? This is no Einstein blah blah. May I ask you a question? How do you get the plus and minus there? What would happen? I know it's impossible, but if it was possible, if we could deposit plus for every customer that we have, and every customer we don't have yet, what would happen? When you come into your office and you just show yourself, are you on plus or minuses? When you come home, something called family, are you on plus or minuses? These are the tough questions now. If you still have a family. That is why so many people buy a dog, so someone is happy when you get home. Right? This is maybe the difference that makes the difference. Emotional deposit on the emotional bank account plus, or how do you take care of minuses? When something goes wrong, how do you take care of it is maybe more important than the plus. Maybe that is the plus. Because you help me away from. How do you do? Here we have something I'll draw, which is called reality tester in real life. How they call it in the brains. I call it a handyman. You know, the guy or the girl with the flashlight, keys everywhere, open all the doors. I just make this up. But what that guy, if I say guy instead of girl this time, keeps track of everything you have done subconsciously. If you do crossword Sudoku, have you ever done that? And you try to do it, and then you fill it out, not everything, and you put it away, and you pick it up the next day, and just fill it out. Have you ever done that? Say, wow, easy now. What happened? The handyman has been working. Have you ever went to bed with a problem, and when you wake up, you solved it? Have you experienced it? Yes or no? That is why I think you should have double salary, because you work during nights. Why not? I mean, you're working 24/7, right? However, so what happens here? This guy, his or her purpose is to keep track of all your experiences. What does it mean? 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 Options, procedure, towards, away from, see, hear, feel, blah, blah, blah. And ask the question, how do we deposit plus and minuses? Now I make this up. Let's say I'm 9 years old. Let's say I had never played soccer. I have, but let's say, I make it up. My friends call me and say, Kjell, everybody's sick in the team, can you come up? And I say, I don't play football, I don't play soccer, I don't even have a shoes. And they say, don't care, come. So I'm there playing, all of a sudden, the referee goes, penalty! And they say, Kjell, you do it, because they were really rough towards you. I have never played soccer in my whole life, never played football. So what did I want to do? I always want to recognize myself, right? So my handyman goes down in the subconscious and said, have I ever hit a penalty shot before? No, here it's empty, total empty. No experiences whatsoever, which makes me free to perform, right? So I go up. Unfortunately, it's a little wet in the grass. I have no football shoes, so I slip outside. And for everyone who doesn't play football, not good. Now I see it's outside. I hear the crowd going, no! What do you think I do? If we model tonality up and tonality down from day one we are born, guess what I'm doing? I'm doing the same. So I also go, no! Very few in this situation go, yeah! That was the hardest I've kicked so far. Then you have to be in the other team next time. It's so fascinating when you have this tonality. No! It creates cramp in your stomach. If you don't believe me that your tonality is creating emotions, and don't trust me, if you have the fortune to come home to someone after these 3 days, open the door and try a new product to your family at home and just say, hi, I'm home again. And just and see if it makes a difference. And they will say, oh, have you been on a course or what have you been doing? Blah, blah. So I see it goes outside. I hear, no! I have cramp in my stomach. I smell grass, which makes me hate the smell of grass the rest of my life, and I don't even know why. I bite my tongue, get blood taste, and there you have the deposit. Researchers 30 years ago could find that one. You could actually lift this up and say, there it is. You can see it from outside. Now the second question came. Have you ever dwelled upon something? In other words, you make a mistake and you go over it once again in your head. Is it hard questions in here before lunch? Have you ever dwelled upon a problem? The opposite is, if you have a problem and you go like this, how many do you know goes, forgotten? What? Was it me? Do you know anyone? They have never reflected. Was it me? Was it a problem? What? Most people I know actually start to dwell upon the problem. They start to think in a good intention because they think it helps. The problem is, the more you think about the problem, the more problem you get. So, the only one I know that I haven't worked with, I haven't met him, if I continue this Swedish sort of tradition here, is one football player we have who's playing in Milan in Italy right now, and his name is Ibrahimovic, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think he has exactly the same recipe as Björn Borg, Ingmar Stenmark, and Gunde Svan. The recipe is this. That is, they have a definition that you cannot fail. You can only learn or not learn. If you learn something, what happens? You will succeed in the future. If you have a minus, it means you haven't learned yet. When I stole that one and gave it to the golf girls, because what stopped them to being the best in the world was they were afraid of failure. They were afraid of doing mistakes. So I said, you can't even make mistakes. It just means you haven't learned yet. They said, oh, is that true? And I said, I know it's not true, but if it was. And it got them confused. And then I said, may I ask you, how many times, how many attempts did you get when you were learning to walk? Did your parents say, you get 8 tries, then out? What is it, what are the neighbors going to say? In other words, don't we continue until we learn, yes or no? But sometimes we put up rules that makes it possible to do mistakes. This is what happened to the girls. Let's say I haven't learned that. Let's say I am the one who put deposit minus, and every time I think about, fantasize that I missed the penalty, I actually deposit a minus. How many times? When I ask neuroscientists, they say 600 times 24 hours, which means I just go because I think about it, I see a picture, I hear, and I have a bad feeling. I just go on, spin, minus, 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 minus. And all of a sudden, let's say I get penalty again. And they say, Shell, you do it and recover from last time. And I say, yeah. Before I hit, what did I want to do? I always want to recognize myself, right? So my handyman goes down and said, have I ever hit the penalty stroke before? Are you kidding? 600 straight outside. So when I see that in my inner mind, I hear, before, I have cramp in my stomach. How do I talk to myself now? Don't miss. Do not miss. Don't miss. And you know this, that if you use the words, when you hear don't, the brains cannot see it. Which means, if I ask you, what's your name? And you say, it's not George. Okay. So what is it? It's not Steve either. So many people tell other people what not to do, which gives an order subconsciously. That is what they do. For instance, isn't that what we do with children sometimes? Don't run, don't scream, don't drop. And that's an order for them to do it subconsciously. Because the handyman says, all right, is that what I should do? Because if I tell you, don't think about red, this color I don't want you to think about now, it's very likely you think about it. And green cucumbers, absolutely do not think about that. In other words, leadership is to tell people what to do. And if I don't know what to do, I'm going to look, what are you doing? Because what you do, I'm going to model. Because that's how we learn. Does it make sense so far? So you are the difference that makes the difference. When you tell me what to do, you have helped me. As long as you tell me what not to do, I'm probably going to do it again. Especially if I see you doing it, because then I think that's the right way to do. How many of you take a long list when you go to the grocery store and write down what you should not buy? I don't want to buy this, I don't want to buy this, I don't want to buy this. Have you ever told yourself, I don't want to be red in my face? And the handyman says, I fixed that, and you turn totally red. It goes fast, right? You have a good handyman, bad order, bad command. So here I am, 9 years old, have missed one penalty. I don't say, don't miss, don't miss. I see the picture outside. Hit outside once again. And what do I say? I knew it before. 600 more. I bet you know some football players who have this. I have met them on the highest level. So here you go. Maybe I make this up. Let's say a neighbor comes, my neighbor. I don't know if you know those positive guys or girls. Let's say I meet a super positive who says, Shell, I talked to your mom. You are great in soccer. Am I? My handyman goes down. Am I? 1,200 deposits outside. I don't think so. Which means I dissociate him right off and say, he's a loony. He's an idiot. What is true is that I missed 2 penalty strokes. Then I make thousands of deposits and say, I'm a lousy football player. I generalize and say, I'm not an athlete. If I generalize my whole life, I say, I have always bad luck. If I generalize, the last spot, what is that before therapy, is I don't get the parking lot. Then you're really deep shit. Okay? Therapy time. And let's say I make this up because I do. Let's say the first penalty, I slip only 5 centimeters and make the shot up in the corner, which is pretty nice, some people say. I see it goes in. I hear everybody goes, yeah. And me too, wow. And then they say, Shell, we didn't know you were so good. And I said, I didn't know either, but now when you talk about it, I actually feel I'm pretty good. I smell the grass. I love the smell of grass after that. Plus deposits, bam, bam, bam. People come up, hug me, you know, kick my butt. A lot of pluses here. All of a sudden, penalty, you do it, Kjell. What did I always want to do? To recognize myself. 600 up in the corner. What do I say? 600 in the corner. A different tonality now, okay? So I turn to my body and say, okay, do you want the right one or the left one? And I'm really getting cocky up here, oh, you know. Let's say I make another one, 600 more. And up comes my neighbor and says, Kjell, you are really good in soccer. Am I? 1,200 in the corner. Isn't it nice with people who know what they're talking about? Some serious guy walking around on this globe. All of a sudden, the external and internal match each other. What has happened is that I actually made 2 good penalty strokes. But that is not how I communicate with myself. Because all these deposits that I'm a good football player. I generalize, and then I say, I'm an athlete. And when I'm athlete, isn't it funny, they always are lucky. How do I know? I don't know, but that's what I have, my mindset. When you're lucky, you always get the parking lot. Guess what I'm noticing when I come to a parking lot? If I have a red or a green P, check out what I'm checking out. What will I notice? Will I see problems or possibilities when I enter a parking lot? Before I go further, what is a deposit on the plus for you? What is a deposit on minus for you? What is a plus and a minus? Maybe they don't exist, but if they did, what would it be? If someone deposits plus for you, you say, wow, that's a plus. I'm loyal. What is a minus? That I don't want to have any more to do with you. What is the biggest plus for your customers? If you know that, I think you're very likely to succeed, to have happy customers. If you don't, you're guessing. Have you ever asked them? Have you asked the one you live together with at home? I have 3 children. First time I asked my children, am I a good dad? One of my daughters, she was 4.5. She was sitting eating breakfast, 7:30. And I said, Julia, do you think I'm a good dad? She didn't even look up. She looked like this. No. End of MPS. I know I'm on the shit list. I'm on, minus. So what's a good deposit for you? What's a minus for you? So you know. 1 minute, 2 and 2, please. I wouldn't say that this is scientifically proved, but I would say when I try it around the world, with all the neuroscientists that I do meet, psychiatrists that I do work with, no one has said it's wrong. The only thing they sort of focus on into details, they say, Kjell, everything is right, we can go against it. However, it's not that we have green pluses and red minuses. And I say, I know that. but is it true that we have... Is it true that we make deposit in this way? And I say, absolutely. That is what we believe today. So I want you to sort of, don't buy it, but probe into your own experience and say, does it make sense for me? When you meet people, are you on plus and minuses? How can you make yourself plus? And one of the best places to start, that is actually to take care of minuses. When something is not good, listen, understand it, and see how you can solve it. It's a great place to start. As I said, I work very much with fear. Why? It's because when you know how to get afraid, you can quit. In other words, it's not the way we are, it's the way we do. It's a verb, it's an activity. We don't become nervous, we make ourselves nervous. And when you know how you do it, you can either do it even more or you can quit. And that is why I work so much with fears, because I think it stops people from actually accomplishing what they want in their life. So I don't have the time now, as I said, to go out and climb mountains, even though I would love to. And I do it because I want to see what happens with you. Then I see how you move. I can hear how you talk. I can see how you use your body and so forth. However, I have 2 minutes that I'm going to pick 3 people in the room. Unfortunately, I don't know all the names. even though I've tried to remember as many as I can, that I'm going to bring 3 people up here. And I want you to come up here, and I want you to talk about your private life for only 1 minute. I want you to talk about your private life, and I have specific reason for that. You can talk about sexual life, it's fine. You know, we are in Sweden, so that's okay. I'm going to look. My intention is to stress you so much that everybody can see how you going to change your state. If you go towards or away from. When they can see you turn your color, or if you start and change your balance. That is actually what happens when you're afraid. So something will happen in you, and I'm going to really stand behind you and tease you. So if I pick 3 people now, you have 1 minute. 1 minute, talk about private life, not work life. Okay? You have a mic there, right? That's fine. You're going to pick it in a second. In the all the way back, if I go up 1 row, or if I start in that side. May I ask you, do anyone in here can now hear in your inner voice the words, not me, not me, not me? If you did, you haven't learned anything, because you should not think what you do not want. You should think what you want. So you should say, take him, take him, take him, take him, take him. If you went in and said, have I been through this before, you wanted to recognize yourself, and you hit the minus, you probably said, shit, my usual bad luck. I know he's going to pick me. And what happened sometimes when I start to threat-weight you a little bit, that is, did you notice for a fraction of your seconds, whether you wanted it or not, your eyes went away. They went like this. Oh, nice carpet, blah, 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 blah. Or you were hiding behind someone else. If you did that for a long time and you hit, and the handyman says, have I been through this before? Who do you think he picks if you look away? He's going to take you. So you went from that to... Did your heart start to beat? That is done subconsciously. If you know what to see and feel and talk to yourself, you can actually start or lower your heart rate when you know how to do this. That's how I do it with the fighting pilots. Did you hit the plus and said, yeah, take me, sexual life, finally. This is what I came to Sweden for, blah, 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 blah. Or did you become practical and said, what should I talk about? I think I talk about my children. No, my car. No, my golf. Blah, 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 blah. Where did you go? Did you hit the minus or plus? Did you become practical? Did you go away from, towards? Did you go into a procedure? First I said this, then I talked about them. Or did you say alternative? Well, what should I talk about? Because all of those things happened. Otherwise, you are brain dead, okay? I know that you saw a picture, whether you are aware of it or not. The question is not if you see in pictures, because everyone does. I work with blind people. However, it's not that you see in pictures, it's how you see them, the procedure. Did you see yourself from outside? You probably were afraid. Because that's how the brains work when you're afraid to go outside. If you saw yourself from your own eyes, you probably liked what you saw. So did you see in color or black and white? Was it a moving picture or still? All these things will affect what? Your state. The state will affect what? Whether you go towards things or away from things. That in turn comes back to how you break down goals. Does it make sense so far? I'm not going to pick anyone so you can start to breathe. Now, I want you just turn to your neighbor and said, what was the first thing you did in your procedure? Did you see a picture? Did you start to talk to yourself? Or did you move your body? And I know you don't know, but if you knew. Come on, you have 1 minute. What was the first thing you changed? A deposit on plus and minuses, what is that? That is components of what you see here. In other words, a picture, how you talk to yourself, your tonality, the words you change, how you feel, which very often comes how you use your body, if you smell something, which is very strong of the senses, and taste. All those 5 are the components of one little memory, either on plus or minuses. The handyman, sorry, don't care whether it's a plus or minus. It's the strongest deposit that wins. So if you have a stronger minus than plus, the minus is going to win. When he or she says, have I done this before? What does it mean? Have I experienced this before? Yes, a strong minus, then the minus comes up. If the plus is stronger, the plus comes up. And that will determine whether you see problems or possibilities. Does it make sense so far? And then you come, but how do you change it then? Here I have golf girls that are number 24 in ranking in the world, and they are supposed, my mission was to get them the best in the world in 6 years. And I say, why 6 years? I don't have the time. Why not 3 or 2 or 1? What makes the problem? What's the solution? In other words, I got a phone call from one of the best tennis trainers in the world over 20 years ago. He said, I worked with the best. I got the chance to work with the guy who should be absolutely the outstanding number 1 in the world. He didn't. He failed. Now he wants to quit after 16 years. Would you mind coming and see what did we do wrong? That was what he said. So I met these 2 guys, and long story short, this guy said, when I started to practice as a junior, I could do anything with the ball and a tennis racket. I had all the options. However, he practiced with a junior. His name was Ivan Lendl. Ivan Lendl was a very much procedure. Listen to this. Ivan Lendl decided that every practice they had the last thing they did was to hit 10 serves. And Lendl wanted to check out how many serve ace they could do. Jonas was his name. He said, you know what he said? As a junior, out of those 10 trials, 10 attempts, I always made 9 or 8 aces, but I always missed 1 serve. He said Lendl was not a talent. He said he was a machine. In the beginning, he missed 9 serves, but he made 1 ace. What's the difference that makes the difference? If we look at this, in physical world, actually, Jonas have 9 pluses, Lendl 1, right? But if it's true, just by thinking, fantasizing intently on one thing, intensely, you actually make a deposit. Then it's interesting to know what are they thinking about in the locker room. After the game, which serve do Jonas focus on? He focused only on 1, and he focused on the one he missed. What happens? Minus, 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 minus. Lendl also focused on 1, but he focused on the one he made. Plus, plus, plus. Now we are talking 1,000. After 4 years, Jonas started to miss even more. Lendl started to make more serves. After 16 years, he quit playing tennis. Lendl was ranked number 1 in the world. What's the difference that makes the difference? Is that when I went into the brains on these tennis players, I wanted to know how did they do it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when we focus on things, what controls focus? That's the handyman. You either focus on the plus or a minus. Does it make sense so far? And that becomes your world, right? Some people always talk about problems, some on solutions. What controls focus? That is how we ask questions. Your habitual questions. Which question does Jonas have to ask? What do I do wrong? And the handyman says, I find that out. Probably you throw it up too short. Next time he asks that, because it becomes a habit, he says, what did I do wrong? The handyman knows where to find that one. And then he wants to become a genius who said, probably the hips are wrong. And probably your grip pressure is wrong. Probably your life is wrong. So after 5 weeks, the handyman says, I don't care what you ask. Now you're going to get all the bad emotions anyways. Here you have it. Does it make sense? Here you have the questions that Lendl asked. What do I do well? What does the handyman, what does he have to find? What do I do well? He has to pick up what? A plus. From that he says, what do I have to improve? Well, I throw up the ball a little bit too short. How should I do it? Improve is alternative. How is a procedure. Jonas totally lacked procedures. Here you have the difference that makes the difference. I stole that one. And when I met the golf girls, guess what I asked? What do you do well? What would happen if you incrementally improved your golf one notch each day? Your posture, your rhythm, your decisions, your thinking, or as a human being, your politeness, blah, blah, blah. Can you do it? Everybody raised their hand. And I said, the day after tomorrow, can you improve a little bit incrementally? Everybody raised their hand. Then I gave them a book. And I said, from now on, I want you to write down, before you go to bed, what did I do well today? What did I learn and what was fun? And improve how. After 3 years, those girls had made over 1,000 deposits. There were 28 girls, that is 28,000 improvements. Don't you have the saying, success breeds success? Well, then you need one success to breed that one, right? Here, they were the whole gang. They were the best in the world for 17 years. I've talked to people in the US, to Japan, Korea, all over the world. Why are the girls so good in Sweden? They think it's good luck. And I said, yes, it is. So they don't look into it. But the good luck has always a procedure and an alternative going towards and away from. Remove the mistakes. You can't have mistakes. You learn or you don't. And then you need a faster way to learn. And when you learn, you say, what did I do well? What can I improve and how? When was the last time, if you want to become a better leader, ask everyone in your office next time you take a coffee, and in the office, you go like this. Excuse me. We have been working together for many years. May I ask you, what do you think I do well? Or is that a little bit tricky? They turn around and say, yeah, we've been thinking about that for several years, yeah. Maybe it's too vulnerable. But if you don't ask, how would you know what to improve? If they still have a relationship with you, they will answer. If they don't even answer. Well, improve how? In order to do that, maybe it's very Americanized. What do I think? Or what do I know? But I think sometimes we need to focus on what we do right. So I want you to turn to your neighbor and tell him or her what you do well. And if we know each other, and I turn to you and I say, I'm very good listener, and I'm not a good listener at all. You have to be diplomatic now, okay? This is an exercise, okay? So you don't go, ha, 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 ha. You can say, oh, interesting, interesting. So just turn to your neighbor, shortly say, I'm very good at this. I'm good at planner, I'm good structure, I'm good blah, blah, blah. And just say, wow. The other one has to say, wow, and I explain why. So I'm good in listening, wow. Then you swap roles, okay? Please do. I know you don't want to do this exercise at all, but if you wanted to. I would say this is what is the difference that makes the difference. That is, if you start to focus on what works, if you start to focus on what's good, it's probably going to increase that people want to do more of that. The more you focus on the problem, they're trying to remove it instead of putting plus there. When the girls started to say, what do I want to learn? They were going to the future because they had an outcome, a goal, a target that they wanted to reach and said, what do I have to learn more in order to do it? They were 28 and did 28,000 deposits. They were, as I said, 3 years they were the best in the world. Last year they were still the best in the world. They're world champions. Now they are number 2 after 17 years. In parts and services, if you're 3,722 people, it means if I come back in 3 years, and you may say, God forbid, but let's say I do, and I come in like this, hello, here I am again. 3 years has passed, and you put one deposit, everyone in parts and services, for 3 years. You know how many good deposits, improvements you have done? 4,075,055. Is that good or is it good? If success breeds success, imagine over 4 million improvements. How can you possibly fail? Because you can't. You can only learn. Right? So next time, have a book on your office. You are not allowed to walk home before you write down something you did well that day. And if you can't come up with something, you write down, I was here, so you can go home. Finally, I want to end up, if you make a deposit, one of the neuroscientists called it, it's a paradox, he called it actually memory marks of the future. It's very fascinating that you memorize the future. But this is what athletes have done for so many years. In other words, they sit in the now and they go in with their mind in the future, in the outcome, and they see it, hear it, and feel it. They see themselves succeed. They feel themselves succeed and hear what they say to themselves and the crowd, which actually makes a plus deposit. When it actually happens in real life, the handyman goes down and says, do I recognize myself? Are you kidding? You have done this thousands of times. Which makes them actually go towards instead of being afraid of the unknown and sabotage themselves. Which means that when I hear this guy saying, when I put my first foot on the green, I want to walk away. I need to make a deposit on the plus for him. I didn't know so much about him, but I knew he had a little girl, 1 year old. Her name was Filippa. And I'm very sneaky, and I'm sorry, but one of the best deposits we have, if we are parents, is children. So I steal that one. And my intention is feel, taste, and smell, the 5 senses, and make a deposit of the future. So when he says, do you have time? I hear myself, I don't have time. But if I had, I would like you to fantasize for a little while. I know it's impossible, but if it was possible. You see how I do the ice cream boomerang? Then I say, I want you to see yourself walking up towards the first hole tomorrow. And on the green, it stands a little person. Do you know who it is? And he says, no. And I said, it's your daughter, Filippa. And what happens is that when you walk towards her, she starts to walk towards you. And you focus in and see her eyes, how they are shining when she sees and recognizes you. And do you know how small children are when they learn to walk? They are very good in starting. They don't know how to end. So they start like this. Then they don't know how to. So they throw themselves, and you have to catch them in the air, right? So I said, when you put your first foot on the green, you have to catch Filippa in the air. And you can feel her cheek and skin against yours. And you smell her smell. And you can hear she's saying, Dad. And then I said, then you're walking down towards the second green. And when you see the second green down there, it's a little person standing all the way back. Who is it? And he says, Filippa right away. Yeah. And when you walk and you put your first foot on the green, she throws herself in the air. And you feel the warmth. And you hear her delightful voice that just gives you so much pleasure. And then I said, how do you feel? He didn't say anything. I said, excuse me, may I ask you, how do you feel? And he says, on the phone. I said, what does that mean? And then he was quiet. He didn't want to answer. So then I have to check him out. And I said, is it warm or cold feeling? That is how I know whether it's a plus or minus. And he says, it's hot. And I said, wow. And then I did the third green, fourth green, fifth green. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't have more time. Good luck tomorrow. I saw on a huge board, I can follow the players. And I talked to him in the following night. And he called it up. And what happened was he actually hit up the ball on the first green, made one putt, and made something called birdie, which is very good. Second hole, 1 putt birdie. Third hole, 1 putt birdie. Fourth hole, 1 putt birdie. Fifth hole, 1 putt birdie, not on the sixth. And I'm still thinking, what would happen if I had the time 18 holes? Had he done something that no one has done in their whole life? Never, ever. However, he's the only one who have started on Augusta with 5 birdies. No one else has even been close doing it. And now you say, I don't play golf. May I ask you, what feeling, emotions do you want when you put your first foot on the job? Because that's the procedure. When you come home, what's the first you want to feel? What do you want your family to feel when you come home, when you put your first foot? Because it's going to be contagious. And I know you don't know, but if you knew. And the most important thing, actually I forgot, and I'm sorry, but that is to have fun. And I believe you're very successful already. And the question is, how can you become even more successful? Then sometimes to create more fun. And life is not always fun. And then you know what to do. You know what to ask. I know it's not fun, but if it was, how would I feel? I want to wish you good luck on your 4 million deposits of plus in the future. Thank you very much and good luck. Thanks.
Hi again. So, what is the difference? How do we do it in order to create a permanent change? What was the steps? First, what happens if you don't do the change? What's the consequences? What's the pain? What's the pleasure if you do, and what's the consequences of the pleasure? Can you see in your inner eye the difference of the pain and the pleasure? Put the change within a procedure that you're already doing that facilitates the change. Do you believe the change is possible? Is it important enough for you? And are you the person that want to be the change? Because the difference is you. I want to extend a huge thanks to Shelley Rose Charvet for her wisdom of change. And a huge thanks to Atlas Copco. And an even more huge thanks to you. Thanks. You are the difference.